Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Talking Tigers with Bittu Sahgal on behalf of Sanctuary Asia Foundation, Delhibird, Zeiss. This is an ongoing program that we have every weekend. And today we are really privileged that we have a true tiger with us talking about tigers. Bittu Sahgal needs no introduction. All of you know him, leading conservationist, friend, author, co-author, family, and who has been on the forefront of India's fight, India's struggle against destruction of our forests. He's been on every committee, and by the same standard, he's been kicked out of every committee. But he struggles on nonetheless. You know, we will talk about various things with Bittu, but I think one of his greatest contributions is to draw the younger generation, the kids, with his program, Kids for Tigers. Bittu, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be there.
Among the various things we'll talk about or you tell us about, I'll be very grateful if you can concentrate on one or two subjects either before your talk or after. Why is the tiger taking away most of the money that is there for, which is very little, but the tiger draws it out? Is that fair? Is there a logic to it? And B, how can the future be secured in the hands of a younger generation? You and I have been talking to school children, and I agree with you that the future lies with them. But it'd be nice if you could elaborate. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bikram. Hi, Nick, and hi, everybody else. The truth is that there has been such a huge amount of focus on the tiger, and we still have not been able to protect natural India. Why was the tiger chosen? I mean, at that point, it was just as simple as, why would you want Scarlett Johansson? Why would you want Amitabh Bachchan? Or why would you want XYZ to be your representative? He's just a symbol, you know. The fact of the matter is that there has been a gross misuse of the tiger in terms of tourism, because it's now become almost like a peep show where 50 jeeps congregate where the tigers are, and Tiger Dekha becomes like a battle cry. So I am very much on your page, but I have to say that I cannot think of another animal that we could have used. Perhaps the elephant, but not really even the elephant that could have actually, in the 1970s, have got us to save these huge tracts of land. And as we go along, I will share with you the rationale for Project Tiger, but in the process of that, how we've managed to save so many other species. And I do believe very firmly right now that the tiger has had its day. The manner in which climate change is advancing, it is absolutely critical that birders stand up to be counted, stand at the front lines, and start working with the organizations big and small to protect ecosystems. At this moment in time, the Bombay Natural History Society, with its important bird areas, has got, with lat longs, identified hundreds of bird areas, but where is the protection? Many of these areas are not protected. Of course, many of them are our national parks and sanctuaries. Many of them are even tiger reserves. But what happens to the small ones? What happens to the tiny jewels that we find? We need all of us, every single person who wants to save the tiger will have to join the birders, quite honestly, and make sure that protecting wild nature, bringing wild nature back, benefits the communities that live next to wild nature, because if they benefit, nature benefits. If nature benefits, we benefit. So that's answering your question, rather long, short question. I'm on your side, Bikram. So should we move on?
Yes, please.
Let me run you through the rationale. When we said saving the tiger, saving India's pride, Royal Bengal tiger, etc., at that point, even Sanctuary, when we started, Bikram, you were there at the very start. You were there at the start. And we agreed that protecting the tiger essentially is just a way in which we protect habitats. I recall sitting with Kailash Sankla when there was so much pressure on him for two things. Number one, don't declare this a tiger reserve because otherwise all the revenue from tree cutting will go. Like Maharashtra must have earned 30 crores of rupees a year. So he said the greatest opposition came from my colleagues. The other big pressure on him was that why are you declaring this one? It hardly, Ranthambore hardly has any tigers. Why are you doing this? We should go to XYZ place. We should go to this. We should go to that. Look, there are 60 tigers over here, at least 70. So he says, I don't want to just keep on declaring tiger reserves where the most tigers are. I want to pick and cherry pick and choose habitats which are different. So the Sundarbans, mangrove habitats, so Namdafa, rainforest up there. So and so on and so forth. You know, he went along Kanha National Park because he knew it was at the heart of central India and it was also one of the better managed ones with uh, really, really good people in tow. So in one line, Indira Gandhi was a friend of Dr. Salim Ali, of Zafar Futeh Ali, of Anne Wright, of so many people who she gave time to. And Mrs. Gandhi accepted that instead of going the way of we've got 400 tigers here, we've got 100 tigers here, let us choose different habitats, bring the habitat back because to save the tiger, you need to save the habitat. To save the habitat, you get to save a certain ecosystem itself. But that will come up again as I speak with you. And Bikram and Nick, please feel free to interject whenever you feel like. But I want this one slide, Carl Sagan's one slide. I would believe that after the pandemic we have just been suffering through, if this doesn't inject humility into us, I don't know what will. Everything that happened on Earth, everything from the discovery of the wheel to the discovery of fire to the wars that were fought to the programs that were led to all the stuff, to the Hitlers of the world and the Gandhijis of the world, to the mothers, all took place in one small tiny pixel of this little blue dot. It's the only home we've ever known. And before this session closes, I do hope that the silos in which we live, not just we people who love birds or love tigers, but the silos that we live in our lives with politicians and bureaucrats, I hope that we can understand that to protect the birds, you must first protect the ecosystems. To protect the ecosystems, we have to not tell people any longer how to protect this little blue planet. We have to tell them why to protect it. The why is answered here in this one picture. This is not snow and ice. This is water. This is the water that feeds 1/4 of humanity in one form or the other. And at this moment in time, we have a huge crisis. It's called climate change. We'll discover also why climate change and these glaciers are connected. Most people know, we don't have to go through the logic in detail. But let me say that we live in such a grand and beautiful, absolutely stunning world, but the beauty has function. And if you tamper with that function, nature can be a very, very kind and giving thing, but it can also come and bite your ass very, very hard. And it's beginning to do that. But let's talk about the beauty first. Unparalleled plant diversity. That is what really is at the heart of all life, whether it's phytoplankton or whether it's the plants we see, the grasses on land. Plants are at the base of everything. They are our life. Look what we've got. These are all the slides I'm showing you are India. Dense forest throbbing with life, you know. I mean, no human being was born when these forests were around. And then we've come there, bumped up monkeys have come over here and tried to improve things. I have fought, Vikram, I have fought with the World Bank and lost, quite frankly, because we found them coming at meetings, they would say, Indian forests don't have enough productivity. We must increase the productivity of forests such as the one that you see here. And how did they increase the productivity? They increased the productivity by cutting these forests and planting tropical pine. by planting wattle on sholas, by planting eucalyptus, by planting what now in Gujarat they call gandababul, precipice. So these were the ways in which they wanted to improve things. And at one of the famous meetings that I attended, after which I was indeed, like Vikram said, thrown off, I said that, you guys, you are acting like bumped up monkeys. I said, I'm one of you, but I'm not trying to do what you're doing. You've been given two hammers and you've been given a computer with all the Shakespeare's works on it, and you've been told to edit it. That is the crudeness with which you are trying to change the face of the earth in the name of development. We still have everything. Everything. It is still there. We haven't gone to the point of no return. All of us came from here. From this one single slide that I have, that you have on your screens, every single one of us, every single life form, every single tiger, every single tick on the back of the tiger, every single bacteria in your gut, it came originally from these oceans. And we have declared war not only on the land where we tread, but we've declared war on the oceans. What have we got? Just look at what we've got, I mean, I'm not reading this list out, but 400 plus mammals, 1300 plus birds. Bikram will tell me 1300 so and so and so and so. 750 species of reptiles, 200 amphibians, 2000 fish species that we've counted. Don't even think about the ones we haven't counted. And yes, the tiger too. The fact is that the tiger wasn't invented as a symbol by conservationists or by Kailash Sankla or by Anne Wright or by Salim Ali. It was something that fascinated human beings from the time of the Mughals, They were fascinated by it and they hunted it also, but the Maharajas would do that as well. Bikram is better at history than I am. But I can tell you this, that people didn't come over here, shoot a jackal and take it back and frame it and put its head in their palaces and back home in Blighty, The tiger has this magnetic appeal. And the fact is that it is one of those creatures that sits there as a reminder that tells you that, look, you silly buggers, if you leave me enough space, the spider will live too. Because I can't live without this. And you just have to leave me alone. You don't have to come there and comb my ruff. You don't have to come over there and feed me. Just stay the hell out of my way and everything will be all right. That is basically it. And ancient India, we knew. We lived in harmony. It's all very well to say we lived in harmony. The fact is, time has gone by and we're not going to turn the clock back. The challenge before us right now is, how is it that we can actually protect the biosphere? The tiger is nothing but a metaphor. It is not, for me, an animal that has a greater right to live than a mouse or a cockroach or anything. It has no extra privileges. It just happens to be, like Sam Manekshaw might have been the right person at the right place. The tiger was the right animal at the right place, but I think that pedestal now needs to be replaced. And I'm speaking to a community of birders. I'll tell you this, we don't know which one. It won't be birding in a place like Alaska, it'll probably be the polar bear. But the fact is that if we want to get down to the nitty-gritty of protecting every last little pixel on this planet, it will be birding, whether in urban India or in rural India or in the Rocky Mountains or in Australia outback, wherever it is, it will be birders who will be able to protect the pixels. And the little ones, the birds, the big birds, everything is going to be very crucial to this. I won't overstate that case. As Bikram said, together with Anish Andheria and Noel Disa, we launched something called Kids for Tigers 20 years plus ago. And the reason we worked with children and put extraordinary energy into children was that I found that with adults, you have to take a hammer and chisel, just get the cement out of adults' brains, and then fill it up with the equivalent of gray matter. And we were not being able to do a good job. All we did was to upset people and people upset us. But when we went to the children, something magical happened. In India, everybody used to say, long before the British came, long before even the Mughals arrived here, ki jungle nadi ki maa hai. It was said in Sanskrit. I don't know the exact way it was said. But the fact is that the forest is the mother of the river. Where you have forests, you have sources of rivers. And the reason is simple. It rains on these forests, you see. The forest slows down the flow of the water, it sponges it, and then aquifers. It fills the aquifers. Even in places like Kutch, where only 4 inches of rain falls, I recall times when I've lain on my belly and I've put my hand down and I have literally from half a meter down, I have drunk sweet water. That is the manner in which nature makes sure that all life forms have a way to survive. Without water, of course, nothing survives. Tiger, वो पट्टेदार पानी का देवता अभी भी मानते हैं. You go to any village in Maharashtra, you know, and if you see the Warlis, you know, they tell a story that one Warli man killed a tiger, and the tiger crawled up to a cave, and in the cave he bled to death, and his blood, it flowed down the hill and it went into the nachni fields of the Warli people, and they got a bumper harvest, and they said, even in his death this tiger has given us life. Even today, even though these people, the Warli people, have been, their professions have changed, everything has changed, you cannot enter a Warli village without finding a tiger temple there. They worship the tigers still. Many of the young people don't know why their elders do it, but they do. So this is what we tell children. You can read it, but I'll tell you, we reach about 1 million children across the country, and we tell them to save the tiger, we must save its forests. This ends up saving all the species, plant and animal in that forest. And these forests sponge the rain, feed 600 rivers. Just the tiger habitats alone I'm talking. I'm not saying that's the only water they get. I'm saying even if the water comes from somewhere else, these are actually feeding these rivers. They fill our aquifers. The aquifers are the largest large dams we have. All of you must have been glued to your television sets when those wonderful Thai boys were rescued from the underwater cave that they had gone to explore. Well, those were aquifers. We've got rivers running under our feet and we don't know it. And those are the rivers that feed our wells, and those wells are the ones that actually help farmers to grow food which we eat now, delivered to us by couriers. There's another thing. Every single plant here, it can get nutrients from the ground like nitrogen, or it can get all manner of nutrients, it can get water, but it can't get carbon from the ground. There's only one way a plant can get carbon from the ground, and that is from atmospheric carbon. So every time an elephant shits and its seeds from that grow out into trees that of the fruit that it ate, 50% of the dry weight, a seed might only weigh just 2 grams. But the tree, when it weighs 10 tons at the end, or as it grows after 15, 20, 30 years, 50% of the dry weight is pure carbon. So there is no way for us to counter climate change or to temper it than to bring that carbon down. And the only way we can do that is to restore ecosystems, not just forests, but wetlands, forests, grasslands, even deserts. The deserts themselves have plant life. You can't see it, but they are there. And those deserts are the ones that are now being converted, saying they are wastelands. The Rajasthan Canal has done so much damage to Rajasthan, and I would urge that every one of us understands that. Just imagine, the GIB is almost gone. Suppose somebody decided that he is going to change a grassland that the GIB needs into some kind of woodlot. What are we going to do? But that is what we have been doing for all these many years. Bottom line, save the tiger to save us all. When I go across to the army people, which I do very often, Bikram has come with me many, many times, what we say to them is environmental protection is patriotism in action. कि वो कहते हैं इस धरती से तिलक करो, ये धरती है बलिदान की. Now, the fact is that the Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard are protecting our boundaries. But who is protecting the actual soils? It was at one time the farmers, until the multinationals came in with their pesticides and fertilizers and destroyed soil bacteria, which is biodiversity too. So we have to go back with a touch of humility and understand that when we go into the Dibang Valley and say that we are going to produce this huge hydroelectric power and we are going to have these dams and we'll turn the Northeast into Switzerland, That's a load of hogwash. We are actually destroying the very source of our life, not our inspiration alone, but our life, because those rivers, those forests are not impediments to development. They are not to be replaced by tawdry human infrastructure that we build. They are infrastructures in and of themselves, and they have enormous value, enormous value. So the logic goes, the tiger is just a metaphor for all nature. They are at the apex of their evolution. We have to do nothing for them. We have to do nothing for them. We merely have to leave them alone. And I would say that all these areas, whether they are important bird areas, whether they are tiger reserves, whether there are forests where there are no tigers, I would call them ICUs for ourselves also. But when you go into an ICU, you are told that, look, rest a little bit, take it easy. We'll just, give you a few medicines here and there, but actually your body will heal itself. If we leave the tiger alone, just like a cut on your hand, the tiger forests will come back. They'll bounce back to life. You've seen what's happened with the pandemic. All those absolutely bogus bunch of guys who got together and said, we'll need $1 billion to clean Delhi's air. We'll need $2 billion to clean up Mumbai's air. We'll need this, we'll need that. We'll improve the machinery. We'll get this fuel. We'll do that. Absolute poppycock. All we had to do was to find a way not to use carbon and not to pollute. The air is clean. It's cost us a lot, but it didn't have to cost this much in terms of lost economy. So, I had mentioned to you that when Project Tiger was declared, Kailash Sankla never chose areas with the most tigers. He just chose different habitats because we wanted to protect all the biodiversity because that was the source of life in India. Now, this devastatingly charismatic tiger, he ended up saving birds. But as I said, the real thing that he did was that he enabled the birds to spread biodiversity around. And in at least parts of these forests, the soil bacteria that exists there is the soil bacteria that feeds us. When it floods this forest, all the leaf litter, all the bacteria from the tops of the soil goes with that water and it lands up at the end of the monsoon and keeps our soil fertile. This is an area that Bikram and I have been to very often. The tiger just doesn't save, lion-tailed macaques in Silent Valley and the large elephants in Kaziranga, etc. It's actually saving dolphins, sharks, and kingfishers in the Sundarbans mangroves because had Project Tiger not come in at that point, please believe me, much of the Sundarbans would have gone the way of industrial development, not by the local people and fishermen, but by industry. As it is, Sagar Island has been destroyed. So Project Tiger created a wall. And let's see what we did. This was the kind of stuff we did. Sit back and watch this.
Bittu, put the volume up.
Actually, there's an issue about videos. Videos don't play very smoothly on Zoom.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe you could just talk to us about the video maybe while it's happening.
Okay, should we stop?
No, videos don't play smoothly actually.
Just tell us what they're saying.
I mean, I don't know. You tell me if you want to hear them or what you want me to do. Why isn't it playing?
We can't hear them while it's playing. So maybe you should talk about what they were talking about.
On the concept behind this video.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The whole idea was if we chose a tiger. Can you hear me now? I mean,
yes. You are clear. The video is not clear, basically.
Okay. Let me do that. Let me move ahead, and let's now go back to present. So, are we back? Is the full screen back with you?
Yeah. Go on. Go ahead.
Okay. So what this film did was, like we chose the tiger to represent the animal world, we chose a bunch of very, very popular, very credible human beings who were very, very well known film stars to get up and say, leave the tiger alone. That was a singular message in this whole thing. A lot of people, including our friend not with us anymore, Om Puri, Nasiruddin Shah, the works, they all came in over there. I'll leave this film with you and you can share this film very happily on the Delhibird site so people can see it on their own later on. So India, it said basically that these are the tiger reserves that we had, and saving the tiger saves us all. The facts are not really all that important, but we've gone through the process of knowing that, I mean, that we've got 50 tiger reserves right now, and it is absolutely imperative that these 50 are multiplied by, not for tigers, but why are our IBAs, the important bird areas, not being declared? Why is there no register of natural capital in India? After all, when anybody wants to mine coal, they have a registry of coal mine resources. When somebody wants bauxite, you have a registry of where's the bauxite. But when we know now that biodiversity is essential to our life, we don't have a registry of natural capital. And that is the reason why people say we are only taking wastelands, there's nothing here. What are those wastelands? It would be something like Banni, where they would like to plant plants that would be able to give them biofuels, or they would like to cover it wall to wall with solar panels, making sure that every spiny tailed lizard under there is either wiped out or has no food to eat and will be wiped out soon. So I'm going through the logic of this. On the right corner of this, do you see a tiger down there? Can you see that just out of the frame, Bikram?
Boss?
There's a tiger, there's an elephant, there's a tiger at the right. The point is that in the process of saving,
yeah, we can see it, yes.
Yeah, so just like, the tiger just became, the elephant too is an indicator species for the forest. The way the great Indian bustard is one for the arid grasslands. So we must find a way, whatever that way is, to work together. The one-horned rhino is for to wet grasslands what the GIB would be to dry grasslands, arid grasslands. We must find ways not only to save them, but to make sure that we know it's being saved. So presence and absence is the key. If suddenly in Kaziranga you found that the rhino population was dying, like I believe in Botswana, some 200 or 300 elephants suddenly died, we don't know why, then you know something's wrong. But if there were none, then you would find that the disease would eat the inside of an ecosystem and you wouldn't even know it's going. These guys are the gardeners of Eden. So are the birds. So are the frogs. So is these are the guys that are maintaining our ecosystems. For all our intelligence, Homo sapiens, I question that. If I had my way right now, I would call it Homo stupidicus, because we neither know how to protect these ecosystems, nor do we know not to destroy those things that are being able to give us food, water, shelter, air, clean, this, that. So we could learn a thing or two. We could learn a thing or two from whole packs, the way that they work almost like a super organism. Anyone who's been inside a forest with wild dogs will understand that they are one for all for one. But there's fun too, There's a lot of fun there. I mean, while people go out looking for tigers, even though I'm identified as a tiger, protector, watcher, if in the old days, what used to happen is that we'd see vultures up on top circling and we'd say, Wahan hai. So Fateh Singh would drive at 40 kilometers an hour in his rattle trap jeep and we'd be bumping along. And when we'd got there, we would find either a cattle barking of a langur. And that was the way we tracked tigers. Today, it's all changed, Now we're tracking tigers by seeing a herd of jeeps, Whoever sees that with phones, they go. So the art of wildlife watching is lost. That's actually quite a big loss for old timers like myself. That's no way to see a tiger. You might as well go to the zoo. And God, I'm trying to close the zoos down too. So red pandas, they are symbols of old growth forests. I haven't been to Sikkim. It's one of the things on my death list, on my checklist for before I go, you know. But if you see red pandas in the wild, you can be sure that that forest has got mosses, it's got lichens, it's got food, it's got everything. Down in the sholas, the Nilgiri tar is again a representative indicator species. So we save indicator species because we know that we don't have to go down and look behind every leaf. We know that it works. And this picture for me represents, it answers the question. For instance, people say that, look, the herpetologists have often argued and said that, look, why snakes are killing so many people, this and that, you should be focusing on this. All I say is, like the diversity of a forest, let different people focus on different things, but let us have one single goal. These frogs have come here because there was water. The water was there because this place wasn't turned into Albania. In the process of going to this water hole, these frogs have found a wonderful perch from where they're probably picking up all the flies and other things that come. Life is like that. It's not an either or, it's and. We've got to live together. And look, the largest moth in the world, the Atlas moth. I mean, you'll find these outside tiger areas, of course, but the fact is that we haven't even begun. The management plans of tiger reserves need desperately to be altered. And I feel that it's time now that birders got together and started asking for within management plans, which is to protect a large area, say Corbett, it's 1500 square kilometers plus the areas around it. We should be saying this particular part should be, we want to manage a micromanagement plan for grassland birds. We want a micromanagement plan for wetland birds. We want a micromanagement plan for XYZ species. This is the involvement in Project Tiger areas, but even without Project Tiger areas, why aren't we looking to actually showcase, shine a spotlight on the beauty that exists? These fan-throated lizards, I mean, if in Maharashtra today, you have, in the Western Ghats, you have plateaus. There are lizards that exist only in those plateaus. It's not a question that they exist in that area, it's only in the plateau. It might be, not this one. I'm saying there is a lizard, I can't remember the name now, but there is a lizard that is found only on the plateau, not even 100 meters down. Now, if we protect these micro habitats, the chances are the whole process of protecting the planet comes back, and it's not a question of just going out over there and saying, oh, look, I've saved the elephant, I've saved the rhino, I've saved the tiger. I've managed to save our water sources, I've managed to bring carbon down, I've managed to bring some balance back to life. Everything that dies, these turtles will eat, whether this happens to be plant or animal material. That's why you can drink this water, otherwise you'd probably be sick. And this one is for Bikram. Bikram, you cannot impress a female hen with the beauty alone. What the male peacock really does is that he looks at this, but he's not looking just for the color and the handsomeness of it. He's looking for the sheen. When a male bird is not in the pink of health, the sheen, I can't tell the difference, but the sheen vanishes. So that's the purpose of its spread. That's why it spreads its tail, not for the whole thing. It probably 3 feathers on this are not right, or 10 feathers or 15 feathers. I don't know the technical part of it, but these are ways in which ancient mating rituals take place. This is how the best gene goes into the next generation. I get woken up every morning here in Mumbai, in Malabar Hill, with this, what I used to call the white-breasted kingfisher. What is he called now, Bikram?
Well, white-throated.
White-throated, white-breasted, okay, whatever. I mean, I find that very frustrating. Bikram barely taught me how to birdwatch, and then he changed all the names. So I'm saying, like crows, tree pies are corvids. At one time, they were the ones that would help us to locate tiger kills, and now it's just jeeps. I have a sense of sorrow for that. Here you see the tree planters. Take all the forest officers, take all the NGOs that go around, take all the ministers that go around and saying, I planted 1 crore trees, I planted 12 crore trees. मैं कहता हूँ भाड़ में जाए सब, मैं भी. These are the real guys who are planting it. These are the people who pick these things, swallow the things, seed and all, and shit it out, and then in the right place at random. billions of seeds are spread, but the only ones that come up are the ones where the soil moisture is right, the season was right, the water availability was right, and it survived. So this is the way for the future, and there's much to learn, you know. Um, Bikram, you
Yeah.
know, we've sat down and heard this rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat for ever and ever
Yes.
on the many wedding trips that you used to take me out for. And now the F1 Formula Racing guys, they have actually checked the musculature. How on earth does it happen? Why doesn't this bird suffer a concussion? Its beak hits that bark at such a pace. If I put your head and hit your head on the tree, forget about the blood that would flow. You would probably get knocked out by the concussion. It's all to do with the musculature. The muscles absorb, and the brain structure is made in such a way, unlike us, the brain of this bird has a little space between the brain and the end enclosed in fluid. Our brains don't have that space. So we're learning now how to make it possible for a high speed crash to take place through the study of nature. And if that became the order of the day, I think we would be able to save this planet much better. We would be able to work much better. I don't think we need to go out over there and captive breed parakeets because they've learned to live with us. But we probably will get to a point where we'll have to captive breed a lot of animals. We get the Indian grey hornbill, not the Malabar grey hornbill, here in Mumbai, right where I live. There's a flock of at least 15 or 20, and they're young ones coming up. We've got fig trees on Malabar Hill. It's other than the Sanjay Gandhi National Park. This is possibly thanks to the Parsi Agyari. This is possibly Bikram. We've gone birding here so
Yes.
often,
Yes.
but the fact is that we are getting to see amazing, amazing sights like this. We have to rewild not only our distant forests, we have to rewild our cities. We have to make our cities friendly for insects, for butterflies, for bees. Why are our rooftops not being used? Even microforests in cities can help us because it changes the temperature of the city. And we've got lots to learn, you know. We've got a lot to learn. I mean, yeah, sure, it's hot and sometimes it's cold, and these bee eaters get together, they exchange body heat, they manage to survive. And there is competition between them, but at the end, it's all for one, one for all. I I see these pictures, I see these spotted owlets, and I say to myself that, look, if I never saw another tiger in my life, I would be heartbroken. But my purpose in life now, I think there are enough people trying to save the tiger. My purpose in life, if I have one, is to become part of your gang, Nick. So I don't know if Sumit is on this one or not, but I need very much to increase the army, not of people who come to gawk, but people who are ready to stand up and protect even micro habitats where birds exist. Changeable hawk eagle, Bikram, I got that right. I keep calling it the crested hawk eagle. I don't know. Do you still call it the crested hawk eagle?
Split into two species, but it's fine. It's, go
Yeah.
on.
So it's truly, I mean, it's call. Just listening to that call is enough to make your heart beat, you know, like the roar of a tiger. So we've got all these things. Look at this. What did we do to the vultures? At this moment in time, if I'm not mistaken, the Bombay Natural History Society has been able to get almost over 1,000 birds to be breeding in captivity. It's time that the birding community got together and said, why aren't they being released in the wild in a very scientific way? They need to be supported. This species was brought back. The International Crane Foundation has done exemplary work with cranes. Why are we letting the vultures down? We don't want them 1,000 birds inside one breeding facility. Imagine the risk to the birds. This is something I would truly like the birding community to work with the Bombay Natural History Society and all the other organizations working for vultures. And let's make this our next success within the next 3 years. I went to Panna recently. I counted 21 birds. But I also saw right where I was standing there to count the birds that some guy had put up a 3-story structure for bird viewing. I mean, it was like somebody took my breath away. Why would we do something like that? We don't have enough respect, and between us all, we don't have enough unity. That's a tiger reserve, but it's probably one of the places where the vultures will come back to life. It may not need vultures to be released there, but it needs birders to stand up and be counted and become the people who lead us all towards a recovery. You know something, this wetland here, there's very little. I've spoken about climate change. I will focus on that a little bit, but there's more carbon in wetlands across the world than exists in the atmosphere today. And this is one of grasslands and wetlands are the ecosystems that are being damaged faster than any other. If this carbon is pushed up into the atmosphere by a builder who reclaims, my God, what a lousy word to use for destruction, then what would happen is that we would be in a runaway situation where nothing on earth will be able to save us. In fact, what we need is to restore the wetlands so the carbon that comes down and flows into these depressions is stored. Like you would put your fixed deposit in a bank, this is a fixed deposit for carbon. But it's not just the destruction. Wuhan, we all know what happened. The viruses are sitting there. Vikram, I don't know, Nick, whether you guys have friends overseas who are birding in the Bering Strait. But there, what is happening with climate change now is, apart from the bird trade and apart from the tiger trade, which is doing all this damage, it's like a 1-2 shot. At one time, it used to be shikar and habitat destruction. Right now, it's climate change versus the rest. We are finding that birds that never ever met since life began on Earth are beginning to meet because the climate is bleeding. One climatic zone is bleeding into the other, and viruses are being exchanged by these birds without a human being involved. We don't even know the dangers that we are running into. And if I were Bikram Grewal, if I were Nick, if I were Sumit, if I were all these wonderful Shashanks, I would actually make climate change the purpose of my life, because you cannot save the birds unless we rein in climate change. So I'm almost at the end of what I had to say, but India has the ability to go back and tell the world how to live. We worship nature. It has inspired religions, our culture, our music, our dance, our festivals, our philosophies, our writings. Everything from the Vedas to everything came from nature. It still does. And we cannot destroy it. So I have chosen to spend most of my time with children purely because that's where I get the greatest return on my time investment. Everything that we put into that little child's brain will last longer than it will in my brain. I've got another 10 years, or luckily 10 if I'm lucky. But these kids have got 50, 60 years to live, and we want them not only to leave a better planet for our kids, but we want to leave better kids for our planet. That job can only, and I'm saying only, in a country like India now be done by birders who can fan out and touch more pixels than the tiger is capable of touching. It's not too late. All that nature is asking is that we stop declaring war against it. Everything comes back. It will fix itself the way a cut fixes itself. Like the air has fixed itself. Like the Yamuna has, you can see 3 feet down into the Yamuna, you can see the fish. It can fix itself, but we have to stop. We are like druggies. We are insistent on continuing with this drug called development. And it's going to be the death of us, literally and figuratively. So we started Sanctuary Magazine and Cub Magazine. We work on this. This is what we do. Incidentally, everybody who is seeing this from January, February, March, April, May, June, these issues are available to see free on Sanctuary Nature Foundation.org. Just register with there's no money, there's no nothing, just register and you'll be able to see all the issues there. And after that, if you really like it, you might have to pay for it. Kid Park and Save Tigers. The children, they don't have the cynicism we have. They don't have, that somebody else will do it. The biggest problem in this world is that everybody thinks somebody else will save this planet, It's not somebody else, it's you, it's me. We are the guys that have to do this. And Sanctuary's mission right now is that we're going to run an adult literacy program. Each one teach one. Each child teach an adult that you are not the maker of this universe and you're going to leave us not only straddled with debt, but you're going to leave us with water that we won't be able to drink, with soils that won't grow food, with forests that are empty of biodiversity. And this is not something that we are telling the children and appealing to their heartstrings. If you have not heard of IPBES, IPBES, Nick, please write that down, circulate it. It's the Intergovernmental Panel on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. It has answered that one question that Salim Ali struggled for all his life. Kailash Sankla struggled for all his life. We know now how to save the tiger. Everybody and their son-in-law knows how to save the tiger. But why to save the tiger hasn't been understood by people, and that is the biggest obstacle we face. We're on a pale blue dot. On a pale blue dot. It fixes itself. And if you ask me, the virus is not COVID-19. The virus is Homo sapiens. That's the end of my communication, but we've got a lot to do. Delhibird, every one of you people, please understand that every single person is able to get these things, these magazines, but more than that, this is a cry for help. We need birders to help us to save the planet. The tigers got to step off that pedestal for a bit, because now we've got to get to the next level, and that next level is yours. Over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Bittu. Thank you very much. Brilliant as usual. I'm sure everybody loved the talk. We'll be taking in questions now, but while we wait for the questions to come in, Bittu.
Yep.
I don't.
Shall I stop sharing my screen, Bikram?
Yeah.
Okay. I have stopped. Now I have to get back to my
Bittu,
1 minute. Yeah.
What happens is that, I don't think there's been a time before where we've been going through the crises like we are. I mean, in this 3 or 4 months of COVID, it's not a secret, it's in the open domain. See how much environmental stuff has been passed. They have diluted the laws. They are openly saying that conservation coming in the way of progress. Everybody knows that the term progress will come and bite us. What can we as regular citizens try and put up a brave front, a brave front to take on the government to prevent it from passing these very, very dangerous laws? Once we set a precedent, then it's very, very difficult to fight it. I mean, look at Dihi Patkai. Despite the fire, everything is going on.
Yep.
What can we as citizens do?
Well, the first thing, Bikram, that we can do is to unite, because we are more disparate than the diversity of a forest. Even in the forest, when an animal competes with its own, the fact is that there is a balance over there, and the animals don't have a way to destroy it. My screen has gone blank for a minute. Okay, so we're back. Okay. Am I audible,
Yes,
guys?
you are. Yes, you are.
Okay, so I would say the first thing that we have to do is unite. I think that the unity is not just between birders and tiger people, or birders and birders, or tiger people and tiger people. We have to unite with the human rights groups. Because right now, when the battles were being fought for the Narmada, at that point, it was very early. Nobody understood what the value of natural capital was. Today, with the COVID-19, today with the storms, with the cyclones, with the floods, with the droughts, with all this, the ordinary farmer understands something's going wrong. So we have to tap into those people, but it won't just happen because Bikram Grewal said so or Nick said so. And we have to not, while I say use the word fight, the fight really is in the mind. The best habitat for the human is the human heart, for the tiger and its own biosphere. So if between education, between human rights guys, between people like you and me and all the other young people, we need to reach out and get the message across to our government that if you go to the northeast, let's talk about the Dibang Valley. 300 glaciers are feeding that valley in one form or the other and its adjacent areas. But the glaciers have melted. The high dams that they are building there are worthless. We wouldn't start a thermal plant without coal. We wouldn't start an aluminum smelter without bauxite. We wouldn't start a steel mill without iron ore. Why are we building dams when we know that the water won't be there? It's basically contractor driven. And it's much, much better. We have much better options. So the way I would actually, the way I would say we need to work is not just with unity, but we need to work with strategy. And that strategy has to not sell the idea of protecting biodiversity. We have to sell the idea of how by protecting biodiversity, we can solve the most trenchant problems that exist today, which include farmers that don't know in Vidarbha when to sow their seeds, when to harvest their seeds. 7 days before harvest, hail comes and drops it off, and that's why farmer suicide. So we have to change the lexicon. We have to change the way we speak. We have to explain the self-interest in a practical way, not by way of a lecture, but in a practical way. We have to become foot soldiers. We need to work together with social workers and human rights guys to explain that without biodiversity, you won't be able to grow food. You'll be permanently in the hands of people who are trying to sell you either genetically modified organisms or selling you seeds that are very expensive. The seeds are yours. That's what Vandana Shiva says. She says seeds are life. We have to sit and we have to work that way, while some of the scientists, long answer to a short question, but I think you get the drift, Bix.
An interesting question has come in from Raghupati, and he says, do cyclones like Amphan and Ayla and Bulbul have an impact on tiger populations? On tigers, let's say.
Well, you know, it's I'm giving you a personal opinion. My quick answer would be no.
Yep.
They don't have an impact on them. Of course, a few tigers might get washed down the road, but the fact is that these cyclones right now are just nature's way of rearranging the furniture that we have screwed around with. So these cyclones will damage human beings far more than they will damage other life forms. Remember that over the last billion years, n number of cyclones have taken place. Right now, we are seeing them take place every 5 years, 2 years, 3 years. They might have taken place 40 years, every 30 years, 40 years earlier, because that's the way the planet is. So I would say that these cyclones are actually just rearranging furniture. People who have built too close to the shore, the CRZ rules in parliament, they loosen them. Somebody builds a 5-star hotel and you find that that 5-star hotel can't work, so on and so forth. So I wouldn't worry about the cyclone from the point of view of nature. I would worry about temperature, because what will happen is when temperatures rise, you'll find that the turtles that come nesting at Gahirmatha, the sex ratios will be changed. The same thing will happen to the gharial. The same thing will happen to the marsh crocs. The same thing will happen to the salties. So I would say our problem is climate change. The cyclones are merely what you might call just a symbol of what might happen. It's just an indication. It's like you take your temperature and you say, kuch gadbad hai, even before you find it. So no, the tigers will be less affected than us, but eventually the tigers will die too, because we are raising the temperature to the point where the tigers' food won't be available. And so the tigers will die too, but something else will live. We don't have the technology to wipe out all life on Earth yet.
Now, Bittu, there are lots of questions coming here. Most of them are laudatory to you and saying that how wonderful a talk it was.
Vikram, you can set them right on that.
Now creating more issues to jungle and tigers. They're saying are things like Project Tigers creating more problems than resolving them?
No, they're not creating more problems. Human beings are creating more problems. The idea of Project Tiger, I want a Project Bustard.
Yeah.
I want a Project Leopard. I want a Project Elephant. I want a Project Orchid. I want a Project Nyctibrachus. I want to see that we understand that without species we can't live. I actually, if I was left to myself, I would work with children and not talk about tigers and things. I would talk to them about the fact that we need to bring soil bacteria back to life on our farms. That is what will feed us. Otherwise, the farms are failing and people are going into forests, cutting those forests down, doing marginal farming, which works fine for 3 years or 5 years, then moving from there to another place that the world cannot sustain anymore. So we need to change the whole lexicon. We need institutions to understand that biodiversity doesn't mean megafauna. Biodiversity means that 6 inches of soil, the bacteria in your gut, That is biodiversity too. So if we explain this properly, it should work. And I don't think Project Tiger has done any harm to anybody. I think that what has happened is that people who have taken Project Tiger to be yet another vehicle to ride roughshod over have done a lot of harm. And there have been people who don't understand the flow of the biosphere, and they have been given charge. Very often I have found the best guys who know the forest is the DFO. But sometimes uh, in order to please a political boss, somebody way more senior ignores him and does things which causes damage. Long answer to short question. I'll keep my
Uh,
answer shorter.
Ekad Ranganathan asks, do you think scientific research and papers published in on specific species have a positive impact on conservation, or is it activism that is more important?
I would say कि like jungle mein mor nacha kisne dekha. The fact is that these scientific research projects that are done are critical, because these scientific research papers, so many of them now, scientists have become co-opted by the institutions that are destroying the planet. But there are so many scientists who are doing the right thing. So it is for, let's say, a birder to get down and say that, I'm sorry, this particular bird will go unless this is protected. Here is the scientific fact that we have, like the BNHS. If you take the BNHS today, for the last 150 years, the collections of the BNHS, these are our baseline data. So we can say in the Travancore survey or the Cochin survey or the various surveys that were done in the old days, that when this bird existed here, that means this plant was here, this ecosystem was here. This is a blueprint for how to bring the planet back to life. So we need the scientific research, but we need to use it very strategically, and we need to unite to use it, including the few people who are out doing dharnas and rallies. Hats off to them, because they will get the attention that a researcher sitting down in a laboratory in Oxford or sitting down at the JNU will not get. So you need to work together.
I'm going to sort of, condense 4 or 5 questions into one because we're running out of time. One of the questions is that, do you think places like Palamo Tiger Reserve are not being populated because people don't want tiger? I mean, the forest department and the powers that be do not want tigers there so they can exploit it.
I would very strongly urge that we stay away from conspiracy theories, and let's just go there and shine a spotlight on Palamu. Let's go to Simlipal. Let's go to Namdafa. Let's go to the lesser known places, and let us make sure that we shine a spotlight on them. Sitting far away and saying that somebody is trying to do this, it might even be true. But the fact is, you're not going to stop it by just talking about it. You need to make partnerships. Look at what has been done with the Amur falcon. Suppose somebody sitting in Delhi kept saying, "Oh, they're killing Amur falcons," and they keep on writing letters to the editor and keep on complaining. "Kya hoga uska?" No, it was the people locally, and it was people like Ramki and you and everybody. All of you got together and you went to the communities and you got it saved. That's the only way to do it. There isn't another way. I want, whether it is a tiger, whether it is the Amur falcon, whether it is a great Indian bustard, I would say that today what is demanded of us is an understanding that the biosphere is, that the economy is a wholly owned subsidiary of the biosphere. It is not possible for the economy to survive. That is one thing we must take as a religion, a mantra. And then we must work with the communities to make them the first beneficiaries of a restoration of biodiversity. There's no use Bittu Sahgal going out and beating his chest and said, "Oh, when I used to go there in the 70s, there were only 4 tigers. Now look, there are 90. So what? But what has happened to the communities that lived around? Have they benefited? There's 400 crore rupees per annum. But how much of that goes? And I'm not talking of menial jobs. I'm saying equitable distribution of wealth is crucial to biodiversity protection. It's when people know that this biodiversity is our Annadata and not our Yamdut that we'll start protecting.
Everybody seems to be of the consensus, seeing the comments that have been coming onto the chat, that the government has really, used this COVID period to pass a lot of contentious issues. What is your opinion on the EIA 202?
My opinion is very straightforward.
It's too big a question for a 2-minute answer, but
Yeah, no. I'll answer it in 2 minutes. My question is just this: that it's what you call lakir ke fakir. That I have already started marching in this direction, so I shall carry on marching in it. In Mumbai, we have a coastal road that's being built at the level of the coast, the most expensive road ever built in India, but the sea level is rising. So every other country in the world is raising its infrastructure. They're not spending less money. Right now, in order to become future ready, we will need larger projects than we are spending money on right now. But we certainly do not need our government to go back and destroy existing infrastructures. And this particular issue of clearing the projects, frankly, it is the lack of understanding. It's okay. Let me be blunt. The four horsemen of our current apocalypse: ignorance, avarice, arrogance. These are the three horsemen that are being ridden by all the empowered people, and apathy. Apathy trickles down to the last mohalla. If we just sit back and watch it, it won't happen. So if those questions are being asked, why is Mr. Javadekar clearing project after project when this is damaging to India? Frankly, it's an anti-national step that's being taken, because these forests are the ones that will protect us from floods and droughts. But fighting won't solve it alone. Going to court won't solve it alone. This has to be something where we have to work with people who are working with farmers. We have to work with people who are working with tribal people who understand, but not people who are, let's say, of the view that give away the forest to the individuals and they will fix it. No individual has ever been able to fix a forest. Even in the tribal communities, it was always communities that did it. It's communities of biodiversity, it's communities of human beings, it will be communities of birders. That's what we have to do. I think that the people who have asked those questions are right, and they're right to question. But then if you can't get to court, then support somebody who will. Give them 10 rupees if you will. Give them 10,000 rupees if you will. Tell them to go to court. That will slow them down slow enough so better understanding can come. And actually, let me make a prediction, Bikram. I may not be around to see the end of it, but all that we are doing now, we will have to undo. We will 100% have to make sure that ecosystems are restored as a way in which our food security, our internal security will be met. We are about to face one of the worst migration tragedies on the Indian subcontinent, which will dwarf the tragedy that took place in Syria. What we saw of the migration that going back from urban India to rural India, here is the solution. And this is what I would answer to I have no answer. I have no magic wand that can stop Mr. Javadekar from clearing, and it's not him. The orders are coming down from the top. But here is what my solution would be, and I would urge that we debate this. The first 200 or 300 dams in India were built by manual labor on headloads. Women built those dams. Right now, what we need to do is the dams were built. We have 4,500 large dams in India or thereabouts. The catchments are destroyed. Every time it rains, mud is flowing into those reservoirs. None of those assets are really performing. They can't control floods. They can't give us irrigation. They are not able to give us electricity. But if we put 20 million people to work to restore the catchment with nature-based solutions, then what happens? You hold the water where it is. It goes into the aquifer instead of coming as a flood. We give employment to people, which is a huge political gain for whoever does it. And we reduce farmers' suicides. When farmers' production goes up, our GDP goes up. And when this happens, carbon comes down. So we've got solutions, but we don't have the unity to speak in one voice, which is why I'm topoing on birders. You outnumber tiger watchers by 100 to 1. It's time that we work together. We don't have the time to procrastinate.
thank you, Bittu. Thank you very much. All good things must come to an end. But before you go, we've got hundreds of requests of people saying that we must do volume 2 or part 2 of this conversation. So we keep you informed, viewers. We'll get Bittu again very soon. Continue this fascinating conversation. Bittu, you have a question to ask people.
I have a question to ask people, definitely. My question is, do you love your children? Do you love your mother? Do you love your parents? Do you love your cousins? Do you love the people next to you? If you do, then you cannot be a silent spectator. Being a critic is no longer enough. You have to be a participant. This does not mean that you pick up a danda and you go to the forest and try and protect the forest. This means if you're a poet, you write poetry. If you're a writer, you write your prose. If you're a businessman, use your influence. If you're a scientist, use your science. Speak the truth, consume a little less, take happiness in making sure that you're part of the resistance. In the Second World War, the resistance, which was once vilified and victimized, they are now the heroes. The guys who were destroying have become the villains. This is going to be the destiny of those people who are destroying the Dibang Valley too. And it's time for us to take charge, but do this. The best battle is won without shedding blood. Please, let's not consider that fighting is our only option. Convincing is our real option. You fight those people who you can't convince. First go to the court, and after that block the roads and do what you will. I mean, each person to each his own. There's no monoculture in the forest, and there should not be a monoculture of defense strategies either.
Thank you.
That was so fascinating, Bittu. That was so fascinating. So we have some things to tell you all. Bikram, will you just take over? Kavi, show the slide, please.
Yeah, I'll just get this slide.
It's gone off. Yeah. The question of the day is, just take your phones and take a click of where to send this answer to. The winner will win either a Zeiss binocular harness or a Zeiss cleaning kit, all worth about 4,000 plus. The question is, after which famous naturalist is a subspecies of the tiger named? Right? Send this.
So Vikram, I want the binoculars, but I'm not going to tell you because I know the answer. So I hope somebody who really needs the binoculars gets the binoculars.
It's not a binoculars, unfortunately, it's a harness, but nonetheless,
Okay.
It's a very good one. And you are not allowed, you're disqualified.
I know. Okay, done.
Thank you. So please send in answers to www.delhibirdfoundation.org/contest/. We also have another announcement for our next talk. Kavi, can we have the next slide?
Yep.
On Sunday, the 12th July, we see you again at 5 p.m. And this time we are having a really, really fascinating quiz. It's called the Great Indian Nature Quiz. It doesn't only cover birds, but insects, butterflies, trees, flowers, anything that involves nature. There'll be big, big prizes. We'll announce the prizes. It's various people are involved in it. DK Books, Delhibird, Sanctuary Nature Foundation, guys, they are the individuals donating prizes. It'll be fascinating. It'll be about an hour and a half. And like I said, cover everything. So be there, not only by yourselves, by your families, with your grandparents, parents, yourself, your children, friends, foes, everybody. Let's make that a really big success. And it'll really be fun. So 5 p.m., 12th July, Sunday, 12th July. See you at this time with lots of questions. And hopefully you'll be able to answer.
Could I speak to you and Nick after this talk?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. I'm logging off now.
Huh?
I said I'm logging off, so.
We talk.
No, after this
Kavi,
talk.
Kavi, the country slide, please. Country slide.
Yeah.
Okay.
1 second. This one.
So now what we're doing is that, Bittu, would you like to take over and tell us about how you can get a complimentary
Look, it's the easiest thing in the world. You just have to go to, it should have been, not Delhibird, but you'll have to go, I don't know if it's on Delhibird, but you can go to sanctuarynaturefoundation.org. Sanctuarynaturefoundation.org, a window pops up. Just put your name and your email ID and register over there. And then you'll get an email. You say, yes, I am that person. I'm not Bikram Grewal, I'm Bittu Sahgal. And that's it. And after that, you'll be able to access 6 issues, 6 very strong issues. One of them is a very strong Northeast thing about Dibang and all these other things. So that's the way to do it. And if you have a problem of any sort, just write to Nishita@sanctuaryasia.com. Nishita, Nishita. She'll help you.
Thanks, Bittu.
Thank you, Bittu. Thank you very much. And thank you all your listeners and viewers. Keep joining us, and we will. And if you have any ideas of what you want to hear about, or any webinars, Zoom talks, please write to Nick, and we'll try and do the best we can. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, guys. Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Vikram.
See you next weekend.
Lovely.
Bye.